In today's video, I'll be speaking with Stephen Ray, who is a D2 at the University of Tennessee College of Dentistry. He had me on his very own podcast, the Teeth Time Podcast, and had a really good time chatting up with him. So I thought we'd also invite him onto our channel and get to know him. Thank you so much, Stephen. Welcome.
Hey, Teham. How's it going, man? Thank you for having me.
Good, man. We've been really talking about this for a while to have us on each other's podcast, so I'm glad we're finally getting that done.
Dude, I know the struggle. Like you mentioned there, I have my own podcast, and I'm currently trying to work out some scheduling with multiple guests for the future, and it is just, everybody's busy. We're all either dentists or dental students, and so getting this scheduling is tough. But I appreciate you having me, taking the time to bring me on to your podcast, which from everything I can tell is extremely informative for young students, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to make it happen.
Appreciate it, man. Glad it worked out. Yeah, and you're definitely right. Planning all this stuff can be quite a challenge with everyone's schedules, but I'm glad it worked out.
Absolutely. So here we are. We're having a second discussion. It's also good too that we've talked before. We've met over the internet essentially, and we've created some content. So I'm just pumped to get back in, and with maybe a little bit wiser a few months later after our talk, maybe a little bit more perspective, and hopefully I can bring some value to your listeners.
Right. I appreciate it. I'm glad you will, bro. That's why we had you on. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what got you into dentistry, and where you're at today.
Yeah, so my name is Stephen Ray. The fact that Teham and I are talking stems from the fact that I have a YouTube channel. Basically, long story short, I got into dentistry because my father is a dentist, has been for 42-ish years now. And so I grew up with dentistry in my family. I grew up very close to it, and it was never a very serious consideration for me until college, to be honest with you. I think my whole family kind of always thought I would be the one to follow my dad into the business. And I think maybe I never really thought about it until I got older and I realized that life, you have to make big decisions in life and you have to decide which way you're going to go. And so I started to get around to it. I started to get exposed to dentistry and I loved it. I picked it. And then I decided sort of a few months away from acceptance day, based on all of the YouTube stuff that I was watching at the time, people like Karma Medics specifically, that if I was accepted into dental school, I would start a YouTube channel and start kind of documenting things and making content. And it was a decision that I made. My first video I recorded on the acceptance day. I was accepted, and then literally a few hours later, I recorded a video and put it up on my channel. And of course, it started extremely small. I had a few people watched it here and there, and then basically over a year later now, I guess it's been like a year and a half now, essentially, the channel's grown a good bit, and now I have a little bit of a following, and some people know who I am, which has been interesting. And I'm just trying to kind of create content about my experiences in school and try to make things that are both informative and entertaining, which I think is the objective for everybody. But I'm specifically really interested in the camera and editing side of things, and now getting into photography a little bit more too. So it's been a really fun journey. And I always say I don't consider myself an expert on dentistry or dental school, but I do think I have some life perspective, which I like to share with young students. So that's kind of me in a nutshell and where I'm at. And hopefully I make for an entertaining guest.
I've been following your first few early videos that you had going on, and I can see the trend, like the improvement in every video that you've been doing. And just the setup and like the whole lighting situation, your audio, it's definitely amazing. So I can definitely tell you that for sure.
Yeah, first off, I appreciate that. It's something that I challenged myself with early on. I think the first version of it was like, I want one new element in every single video that I create. And then that goal kind of turned into a more broad, I want every video to improve upon what I've done in the past. And I'm like, it's such for me, the YouTube stuff is completely like fun. It's just like a hobby. It's like something that I genuinely enjoy doing. I don't do it for like any other reason really, other than the fact that it's genuinely interesting to me to work with a camera, work with an editing software, and to create things that, like, I'm still trying to form this look and this basically this style of content that mashes together all of my influences and all of my inspirations from the years of watching YouTube. And I don't think I've gotten there yet, but I think that every time I do sit down to create content, I'm learning more and I'm getting closer and closer to the goals that I have for it. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But honestly, man, thank you. I appreciate that. Like, and I had this the other day, I actually got a comment of somebody saying something very similar about the production quality of the videos. And like, I appreciate, like, more than anything, every positive comment that I receive. Like, the people that watch my videos and support me have been just extremely genuine, honest, nice, and supportive. But for whatever reason, the ones that always make me feel the best are the ones that are about like the video side of stuff, because that's what I really love doing. So it means a lot, man. Thank you.
So I know you said your dad's been a dentist for like 40 plus years. Did he have like a desire for you to become a dentist? I know you said something like they looked up to you to take over and stuff, but did he like really push you to dentistry, or did you kind of natively do this kind of want to do dentistry on your own?
So I think with the years of experience and perspective that my dad has gained just being in the profession, I think he knows very well what traits someone needs to be a dentist. And I think dentistry is such a specific profession that it requires of each individual who goes into it a certain set of, I don't know, skills, abilities, just natural talents or natural traits that I think are just given to you. And those include both sort of the mental aspect, the mental side, also your disposition, how well you handle stress and tough situations, and then also the physical side. Can you work with your hands? Are you creative? Are you artistic? And I think he saw all of this, genuinely, I think he saw all of those qualities in me from a young age. And a lot of it stemmed actually from kind of this world of YouTube. I actually had a channel when I was a lot younger, like early, like middle school, high school. I had a channel. It was complete garbage looking back. But I've always had this artistic side, and I think that played into how he saw dentistry positively impacting my life. So I wouldn't say that he pushed me into it. I would say that he recognized how good of a profession dentistry can be for people and how good it had been for him. And I think he's kind of realized that in this world, it's tough. It's really difficult to make good money. It's tough to have a good profession. It's tough to find a job that you love doing and that you enjoy. And I think he realized that, in all honesty, I would be someone who would enjoy this business. So he suggested strongly that I consider it. But like I said, I didn't really think about it until college. And it was in college when I was actually exposed to dentistry firsthand, and I saw it from a few feet away, that I really realized this was incredible. It was like that click moment. And I've told this story before many times, and I want to make it clear that not everybody has to have this aha moment where it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be a dentist, because it doesn't have to happen like that. But it did for me. And it was sort of a validation of all these years of thinking, well, maybe that's what I'll do, because like my dad and all that. And then it became like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do with my life. So that was a cool moment, and thinking back to it gives me chills. It happened at a RAM clinic, if you're interested. And like I said, I've told the story, but yeah, so I wasn't forced into it at all. It was my own decision, and I'm really happy that I made it.
That's good, man. I'm glad you mentioned that not everyone needs to have that light bulb moment, like, oh, this is it. Because you're right. Like, just because you don't have that experience doesn't mean that this career can't be for you. But for those that did have that moment, like myself, and I think you just mentioned that you did too, you really always think back to it. And it never like escapes your mind. Like every time I'm in dental school, I kind of think back to that moment. Oh yeah, that was where I decided. Do you kind of have that same feeling?
Absolutely. And I think it's almost like a, I don't know if this is a great phrase to use, but like a childhood innocence when you're like a wide-eyed child and everything about the world looks intriguing and interesting. And I think that first exposure that you have to dentistry can be that for you, where it's like, oh my gosh, because it's like, it's so, I feel like, and this is what makes dentistry, one of the things that makes dentistry so great is like you're having such an impact on another human being as a dentist. Like you are so intimately involved in this portion of your patient's life. And it's hard to find another profession where you have such an impact on other human beings, because most jobs are, you have human interaction, but to actually be working on the physical tissues of the human body is just like a completely different world. And I think that's one of the things that gives you that initial like spark of like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. Especially as a young, college student, when everything is a classroom and everything is just that world. It was special for sure. So I do think back to it, especially now when things get difficult. Like dentistry is extremely difficult, and so whenever things do get difficult, I try to think back to my initial appreciation for it just from seeing it for the first time.
So, Steven, you have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, and we obviously are in dental school. How do you work around balancing pumping out content and taking care of everything going on with school? How's your routine for that?
Let me tell you, man, it's sort of an endless battle for me to try to answer that question. So for me, like, I think the biggest aspect of this has been the fact that I live alone in a studio apartment here in Memphis where I'm in school. And the reason that that's good is that I think it's good and bad. I mean, I would prefer more human interaction at times, but what it allows me to experience is each day I essentially have, all of my waking hours, I have to do what I want with them. So most of them are put towards dental school, of course, because it's extremely time consuming, hands-on in the lab, especially now as a D2, but also studying, of course. I sit here and study a lot as all of us do. But I do have time. I do have a good bit of time. And in that time, what my hobby is the YouTube stuff. So I think if I didn't do YouTube, I'd be doing something else that would probably be less productive. I've never been a huge like gamer or anything like that, but I would probably do something like that where it's just I'm sort of spending my free time away from dentistry and dental school, because you certainly want to do that. You want to have an outlet, an escape away from it. But that's sort of how I do it, and it's tough at times because the content creation stuff is very time consuming. Editing takes forever. It's something that I'm kind of looking for in the future, possibly like having somebody help me out with the basic portions of editing that just take time. And also I have a job with Bootcamp, bootcamp.com, where I create content. So typically I will, I obviously prioritize dental school and my health over really everything other than, if I'm going priorities, of course I have my family, my girlfriend, those in my life who I love, and my faith. But after that, it's of course dental school and my health. I think I always try to prioritize. And then I get to Bootcamp and YouTube. And so typically at the end of my days, when I've gotten everything done, or hopefully gotten everything done, I can put in some time. But it really is a balance. I'm still learning how to do it. And it's something that I look forward to kind of talking about more in the future as I continue to learn how to do it. But it takes dedication. And but like I said, when you truly enjoy doing something, like I can stay up till 12:30 in a night or into the morning, I guess, just editing because I love doing it. And I don't think it's a good thing because I need my sleep, but I do it. So if you love doing something, you'll find that it comes naturally to you and it doesn't feel like work.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. When it comes to editing, like I can stay up late at night and do that too. You're absolutely right. But that balancing of it was quite challenging for me in the beginning. In the beginning, it felt like a burden. I'd be like, man, I have to record this video and everything. But now it's like, I do look forward to it all the time. And it's something that really, like, if I'm done with everything, like you said, if I've knocked everything out, it's like I have no excuse not to. That's kind of like how I go about it. And you brought up the editing. That's definitely one of the most challenging things because of the time it takes. And I know Dr. Meyerson, he was saying that he hired someone to do his editing for him, and he's doing really well on his channel because of everything that's like, consistently done and always, posted at the same time. But yeah, hopefully we can get to that level one day and get that stuff taken care of to kind of ease this. Yeah.
Just quickly on that note. Joel definitely got to that threshold where he realized, because I think a lot of it is realizing how valuable your time is. And so I think Joel got to that point where he realized he had the funds to pay somebody to do, like I said, the basic editing. And so what that allows him to do is put out more content more consistently, which is extremely important on YouTube. And he's just sort of reached that point. So I think in the future, that'll happen for me. It'll happen for you as well. And it's just dedication to the craft. And like I said, I truly enjoy doing the editing, but I have things that are technically more important in my life that I have to do. So it's just a balance, but that's the way I look at it. As a bootcamp, just one of the cool things about the YouTube stuff has been just having opportunities that I would have never expected to have. And bootcamp is the biggest example of that. I connected with Joel. Joel Meyerson is one of the higher ups at Bootcamp. It used to be DAT Bootcamp. When you and I went through as pre-dental students, it was DAT Bootcamp, and it is now Bootcamp because the company is expanding into all aspects of the health sciences education. And so Joel and I connected early on. I guess it was early in 2021 this year when we connected. And I sent him a genuine message just telling him that I appreciated his content. It was cool to see somebody who was out working as a dentist and doing the same thing that I was kind of trying to do. And it was just a complete, genuine message. I also had remembered seeing his videos on the PAT portion of DAT Bootcamp. So I thought that was kind of funny. And within a few days, he had actually responded and asked if I was interested in a job. Because like I said, Bootcamp's expanding. And so they wanted to go into dental school education and kind of create some courses that would be supplemental information for dental students like us. And so he saw the video side of what I was doing, and he asked if I'd be interested in creating a course on dental anatomy. And that's something that we all take as D1s. It's one of the tougher classes. So I said, absolutely, I'd be interested in doing that. And now months later, we have the bones of the course finished. There's certain aspects of it that still need to be completed. Right now, I'm creating explanation videos for essentially a tooth ID question bank. So one of the big aspects of dental morphology that we do in our first year is we have to learn each tooth, and we have to learn how to identify them based on just picking them up and looking at them. And of course, you learn the unique anatomy of every single tooth in the mouth. And so we're going to have a question bank with really high quality images where students can go through and try to kind of use the traits that we've taught them to identify teeth. And if once they go through those question banks, they'll have explanation videos of me explaining why this tooth is tooth number 9 or why this tooth is tooth number 24. So it's been a fun process. It's been a lot of work, of course. And thankfully, it's not just me. I do the video stuff, but we've had many other people who have been working on the project, doing all the other aspects of it. So a really fun opportunity for me, and something that also too has given me the chance to make a little bit of money on the side, which of course, as a dental student, money is not it's not something that we have in abundance. So it's been fun, man. It's been good.
That's good, man. I'm happy for you. That's something that I think, keeps your passion of video editing and video making ongoing, making money, and you're helping out dental students. So what better way to do that?
Exactly. It's like the perfect combination of everything. Exactly.
So you finished your first year of dental school. How was that? What were the challenges? Talk to me about that.
Man, the first year of dental school flew by. Like, it literally flew by. I think at the beginning of this semester, I was kind of talking to some of our D1s here at UT, and just it hit me like the first couple of weeks or the first couple of months of my D1 year, they literally just felt like it was just yesterday. Like, I can't believe that year went by as quick as it did. Of course, in the moment, it feels like it takes forever. But once you look back on it, it's like, oh my gosh, that was already a year ago. Like, I'm already a D2. I think, it's a lot, but I think it was manageable. Because if you take it a day at a time, and you take it a step at a time, it's a very manageable thing. Something that one of my messages for people is that dental school and med school and all of this, they get talked up to be, extremely difficult times of your life, and you're constantly studying, you're constantly working. But the thing about it is it's so hard nowadays to get into dental school. And so if you've been one of those people who is accepted and you're going to go, like, they accepted you because you're a stellar student. And you're more than capable to do what it takes. I consider myself an okay student. I'm not a great student. I'm not, extremely intelligent or anything like that, but I got through it just the way everybody else does. And this is really referring to the school side of things, the didactic side of things. As far as the lab stuff, the hands-on things, I think that was where I maybe at times found the most frustration, but also at other times found the most reward, because the hands-on stuff is that's what we do, right? Like that's what we do as dentists. We cut preparations, we make new teeth, we do all sorts of stuff. And so learning that and experiencing that for the first time was really tough and frustrating at times, like I said, but it also has become the thing that now, seeing my improvement into my second year, it has been the most rewarding, just watching myself grow in that regard. So, there's a lot to say about D1 year, but it's a really cool time of your life to experience your profession for the first time. I think it's, in that regard, it's very satisfying, because you're like, I'm finally here. I'm finally doing this. But people ask me all the time, or people come to me all the time, and they're concerned, like, how do I get through it? How do I do it? One of my most popular videos is how to survive your first year of dental school. Everybody will survive. We all do. And there's some people that maybe it's not for them, and they find that out in school, but that's very rare. So like I said, take it a day at a time, and you'll get through all of it.
Input that you just gave, because you just explained how, well, before I go into what you said about doing well on the hand skill work and how it makes you feel good because that's the field you pick. Like, it's one thing to feel good about getting an A on a didactic exam and you feel proud of yourself and you're like, I can do this, I'm learning, right? But you're right. You said the hand skill stuff, like once you start doing clean preps and you're starting to do smooth restorations that have like they're supposed to, you feel it is very, like, what's the word? Like, you just feel validated and just proud of everything that you're doing along the way, because you're going to do it every day. So it's a different type of pride that you get in the moment, depending on what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's very, like, physically grueling to spend, not yet in the thousands, but hundreds of hours doing this thing. But like you say, it's very gratifying getting to that point. And I think for me, it's come now in my second year. Like, in my first month and a half now of second year, I've really seen improvement, like really seen true improvement in my hand skills and what I can do with a handpiece, which is extremely satisfying. Because I think at times you talk yourself into, maybe I'm not cut out to do this. Maybe I'm not good enough, and I know you've talked a lot about that in the lab, comparing your work to other people's and things. I think we all get there eventually. Sometimes it takes people a few months, sometimes it takes people a few years, but we all get there. And when you do, and you start to get there, of course, it's a continuous process. We never stop learning, but it's very satisfying. It's very rewarding. So that's been fun, man. I've enjoyed it. It's been good. And I guess I'm talking about D2 because that didn't really happen in my D1 year, but it happens for everybody, like I said. So it's good.
How has your school been affected with COVID, and how is it kind of going on right now for the University of Tennessee College of Dentistry?
I would say UT has handled the situation really well. Of course, I think the kind of the box standard situation for most dental schools around the country was, let's do as much of the educational portion of dental school for these students online as we can. And then, of course, we'll try to figure out how to get our students into the lab and make that work. In our D1 year, we had our full entire D1 year with all of our lectures, all of our didactic work fully on Zoom on the computer. And I have thoughts about that. It was good and bad. But then for our labs, what we did was 50-50. So 50 students in the lab at once. We had, two groups, group A and B, and we got all of our lab work done that way. This semester, this year, in our D2 year, COVID had kind of, I would say, it subdued a little bit when we were starting out. So we had approval to have half of the class in a physical lecture hall at once. And so we started out this semester where Group A was going to a pathology lecture at 10, and then Group B would go to a micro lecture at 3 o'clock or whatever it was. And so we would switch off essentially with 50-50. And then our lab our preclinical lab, we were able to boost the number up to 100. So we were able to basically accommodate for our entire class in the lab. And that was a mixture of things that they did. They now have these really pesky plastic dividers between all of us, which makes it difficult to hear our classmates. But it allowed us to, for the first time, be 100 strong in the lab, which has been cool. So now COVID's kind of taking a little bit of a ramp back up with variants and things. And so we're kind of, now we have essentially optional lectures on campus. So some people like to go to lectures and sit down in the lecture hall and do it there. And some people like to tune in on Zoom. I'm kind of in the middle. I do some of them on campus and some at home. But our lab is still everybody in there, which has been great. So like I said, I think UT has handled the situation great. I think I've done a really good job with it, especially hearing some of the stories of other students across the country. So that's been one thing I'm really happy about. It hasn't really negatively affected my dental school experience, but it has affected it certainly. So could talk a lot about that, but that's kind of the basic overview of what's gone down.
That's actually pretty similar to how it's going on with ASDO. I know when we came back after quarantine, like you said, we had 2 teams that would go. We only have like 78 people in our class, so half would be less than 50. So it was pretty cool. I think they did a good job. And actually now they allowed the D2 class that's just below us, that meaning your class, they actually just all come in together now. So yeah, I think slowly schools are trying to get back to where where they were. So that's good. Hopefully it'll keep getting better. And I know with this whole variant stuff, like it's pretty crazy, but I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't get to the level it was when it first started.
Yeah, we're all working to get back. And hopefully I think now, just for the sake of the younger students, I hope their experiences aren't too negatively affected. And that what's most important is that we all learn dentistry and we all become really effective and solid practitioners for the future of our patients. And that's what I think the goal for everybody is. So it's interesting to talk about. I think there's a long discussion that you can have on this topic, but I hope that it like we all do. I hope this goes away as soon as possible.
What's your school's timetable like in terms of clinicals for the D2s to transition into the clinic?
Yeah, so this actually plays into your last question a little bit because COVID has affected this. So for anybody that, if you watch Teham's content, you're probably familiar with this process. But for anybody that's not familiar, the first 2 years of dental school are considered didactic and preclinical. So everything you do is lectures, and then you also do like the stuff we've been talking about in a preclinical lab, a very sterile environment with fake patients, mannequins, fake teeth, fake everything. But you're learning the principles of how to do dentistry. In your third year, you'll transition into an actual dental clinic where you are working on real live patients for the first time. And like I said, this happens in your third year. For us, typically at UT, and I think most schools probably do this in some capacity, we have multiple opportunities for first and second year dental students to be in the clinic. COVID has affected this. So last year as D1s, we would have gone into the clinic in our spring semester for the first time and literally just kind of like watched and sort of shadowed and like kind of just been in there to see how it works, to be exposed to it for the first time. Perhaps they would have had us walking patients from our waiting room over to their dental chair for treatment, things of that nature, cleaning chairs, helping with instruments, all that stuff. So really basic kind of grunt work, but just the ability to be exposed. And then in your second year, you would typically have more exposure to the clinic. You're in there more often. Perhaps you start assisting a little bit and actually participating in treatment. You can do things like take impressions on patients and basically anything that is non-invasive or I guess nothing that's like lasting. So you're not taking a burr to a tooth, but you can do things like impressions, I think radiographs as well, things like that. And so that would be happening in the second year. Like I said, once again, COVID has affected this. So we haven't been there yet as a class into the clinic, which is very unfortunate because they have a very strict scenario there in the clinic, try to keep things safe. But in our second semester of D2 year, we'll probably start to get in there a little bit and start to do the things that I was referring to earlier. And that's fingers crossed. I know our D2s last semester got to do a little bit of that. So that's probably when we'll start. And then once I finish up as a D2, I'll have a few weeks of summer break next year, a little bit under a year from now. And then when we get back to school, we will have our patients for the first time, which is obviously the experience that you're going through right now. And I hope to hear about in some capacity. So that's exciting. It's also really scary because I think at the beginning of your D2 year, you realize, wow, I have 1 year left to like really learn how to do this stuff before I go in and work on real people, which is kind of daunting. But like I said earlier, a lot of it starts to connect, or at least it has for me in my D2 year. So I think another year of this, I'll be ready to go. I'll be confident, at least as confident as you can be for as a D3, working on real people for the first time. But I'm super excited. I'm pumped. I know a lot of people are nervous. I'm like really, really excited because that's what we came here to do. And I think it's going to be a fun transition for me to finally start doing it.
Right, man. It's honestly a very exciting time. I just, finished up D2 year recently, and leading up to the summer break, some schools let the students start going into the clinic before their D3 year, like you said, and my school was one of them too. So I was actually very nervous. I was very nervous. Obviously, I was excited too, but I was slightly more nervous. And I talked to some upperclassmen, I'm like, yo, like, how do you go about it? Like, you've done it. Yeah, I know. Like, tell me what to do. Like, I've been doing this on plastic for like over a year, but how do you like get over that? And they literally just sat down with me and told me, hey, look, you've done this so many times. You've shown that you can do it. You just have to tell yourself, even though you're doing it on a person for the first time, you already know what to do. So as long as you kind of keep that mentality and focus going forward into the end of your D2 year, Stephen, I'm sure you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and that's why like we have 2 years of really solid education, learning the principles, like I said, and you get really you'll find when you start doing all this. And I think in my mind, I'm always thinking about operative dentistry because that's kind of like where you're working with this little we're not supposed to use this word, but drill that's spinning at whatever it is, 400,000 RPMs? It's some crazy high number or something like that. And you're in the oral cavity, but you learn how to be so like hyper focused on these tiny like millimeters worth of space, and you get good at that. And so I think imagining working on a patient, you're focused in, you're in one small area, and it just becomes, it has become for you second nature to be doing this. So, I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited for the experience because that's what we're going to do every day. And another big message that I have for everybody is that we constantly learn. My dad, who is almost 70 years old, learns dentistry every day. He will call me and tell me, I learned that this is a thing, or, I learned when you have this situation, because in the preclinical lab, every single tooth is the exact same. Every single first molar, every single number 30 is exactly the same. Every single second premolar is exactly the same. But when you go out and you start working in real people, every single patient is different. Every patient has a different periodontal status. Every patient has different anatomy. Every patient has a different medical history and different considerations and concerns. And so it is a unique case every single time you sit down to operate. And that's cool. I think it's cool. It's one of the things that makes dentistry tough, but it's also one of the things that makes dentistry unique and exciting. So I'm pumped. It's gonna be cool.
And you even spoke about me maybe explaining how my clinic experience has been so far, and you just like made me want to talk about this real quick. So my first restoration, right, on a real person was a class 5. Right? So we've done so many class 5s, and like you said, if we're doing it on a premolar, it's like the same every time if we're working on the same premolar. And my first restoration, which was a class 5, so I was expecting it to be pretty straightforward. And again, every patient's different. This patient's tooth was rotated, meaning their buccal surface of their tooth was now distal. Yeah, and so I had to do a class 5 on that. And that was and I was like stressing out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've only done class fives with direct vision with it in front of me all the time. How am I gonna do this? And honestly, bro, I don't know how, but it went pretty well. It was pretty smooth. But you're absolutely right. We've been taught in a simulated fashion. Everything's exactly the same. And you kind of don't realize how different every patient's going to be until you're put in that situation. So
Yeah, and that's your first patient. I've always thought, I'm like, I hope my first operative patient is a freaking pit fissure, class 1 caries, like really simple. I could throw an amalgam in there and I look like a baller, just like, hopefully but I'm sure it's not going to be. I'm sure it's going to be a class 2 on an upper molar. And they want composite, and I have to put a freaking dam it up and try to keep perfect isolation and do all of that. So we'll see, but it's exciting to think about. And like I said about my D1 year, I think I'll be there before I know it. So it's exciting.
yeah, it is very exciting. And you're going to be learning stuff every single day, even if you don't have a patient. So I'm just going to tell you something. Get a notebook, a small little handy notebook you can put in your pocket, and just write everything. Like if there's an operative thing a doc tells you or something you come across that's like more efficient to do, make an operative section, make a pros section, make a endo section. Just like write little things, because it's really gonna mold you as a dentist that Steven's gonna be. It's gonna mold your own dentistry. So that's probably what I can say. So after everything that you've kind of gone through and that you still have a little bit left to get through before you start clinic, what's something that was really interesting about dentistry that you learned that you may not have known before?
This is always an interesting question that I have a tough time answering, because I feel like all of it, every single thing you learn is new. And what has put this in perspective for me is going home for breaks and things and seeing my high school friends. And often I find that they'll ask me questions about their teeth and stuff. And then I can talk for like an hour about this just really detailed like dentistry that they don't care to know, that I just have all this knowledge of. So I think, of course, learning about preventative dentistry is one of the first steps, like learning what goes into a good oral hygiene routine and like what we all should be doing. That's kind of like a really applicable thing that you can talk about anybody with. But also too, I think every step of it has been really interesting for me. I referred to dentures earlier, and dentures have been tough. And I think everybody struggles with dentures to some degree. So that's probably been one thing that I don't necessarily like love that I've been doing, but all of it has been intriguing to me, because what was frustrating about undergrad for me was spending all this time and effort with classes and with a degree essentially that I wouldn't use in my future. But we all go through that. Like we all have to take those steps to get to dental school. So just being here and learning my profession and learning about all the different specialties and how to actually do it has been very rewarding. So I don't know if there's one single thing that I can narrow it down into, but it's been fun to learn it. It's been very rewarding for me.
So I know this is kind of looking down the road for you, but what are your plans after dental school once you graduate?
So I always start this discussion by just making it very abundantly clear that I'm extremely blessed, and I haven't taken my opportunity for granted at all. I try not to, but I'll have the opportunity to go in and work with my dad for a few years, and then his plan is to retire. So he's getting older, and he is having a tougher time doing the work. I mean, he's a fantastic dentist. He's a lot better than I will be, at least at the beginning. But he's getting older, and dentistry's tough on your body. It's tough on everything, and I think he's starting to gear towards retirement. Just excited about retiring and stepping away. So the plan is for me to come into the practice after I graduate and to work for him for a few years. His physical workload will go down substantially, so he probably won't be actually working on patients very much. He will be in his office helping me treatment plan, helping me assess radiographs. He will be at times probably sitting down and looking at a situation in the mouth and then telling me what he thinks I should do or how I should approach it, this is all extremely, extremely valuable. And it's one of the reasons why I went into dentistry, because I knew I would have my dad to help me through every step of the way and to get me up to speed, and then to give me the opportunity to own my own business. And so that's going to be the plan. And then within a few years, hopefully we'll be owning the practice. And I have a lot of thoughts and plans for how I want to run my business, and for the people that I want to hire, the culture that I want to have in my office, the outlook that patients have of our practice and our business, and of course the care that we offer. So it's exciting, man. It's like one of these things that like my entire life I've kind of looked forward to, and every day, every week, every test, it gets closer and closer to that reality, and I still have a long way to go. But I'm very blessed, and I'm very excited to contribute to the world in what small way I can by helping people out every day. So we'll see. And another thing is I hope to continue with the YouTube stuff to document that whole experience, and just have this cool catalog of like me going through dental school all the way into my business and building a business and a brand and all of that. It's going to be a fun process. It's I take it a step at a time, and we'll see where it ends up.
Right, man. You are very lucky to have your father, man, to, already be established as a dentist, and to not only be established, but to have his own practice. And, one thing that goes into dentists that are looking into private practice early on is that if they end up purchasing a practice, right? It's said statistically 20 to 30% of those patients will leave just because the dentist that was there is not there anymore. So thankfully for you, everyone's going to know who you are. The patients that are there, they're going to know, oh, this is a son. Yeah, the name doesn't even change. And, being able to work there before you eventually take over is really going to allow you to learn about the patient. So I'm really happy for you. It's going to be an awesome time for you, bro. I'm looking forward to hearing how that's going to go for you down in the future.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. I think I was actually thinking about this like yesterday. I think at the beginning, there's going to be a lot of people who come in and they're like, oh, there's a young Dr. Ray now. I think I want to go to the old Dr. Ray because the young one just graduated, and like I'm fully accepting that. Yeah. So that's going to be the reality. But I hope by that time I'll be really up to speed and doing good work and able to help everybody out in whatever way I can. So I'm excited, man. It's gonna be fun. Looking forward to it.
And you also brought up kind of having a roadmap of what led you to that point, getting out of dental school, and you'll have it in front of you with all your videos. And I'm the same way. I'm looking forward to that. And it's just going to keep on growing, and it's going to be more exciting, and hopefully people can benefit from it, from anyone that's doing anything like this. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
And just real quickly, I want to just give you a shout out because, something that I think about a lot is value, and how much value am I actually bringing my viewers and the people that are watching my videos. And one thing that I really admire about you is that you are bringing like true quality information and value to the people that watch your content. Because I think the process of being a pre-dental student is very daunting. It's very scary. You have a lot of questions. You have a lot of concerns. You have a lot of uncertainty. And I think that people like yourself are really attempting to create a good, solid catalog and a solid base of information and knowledge from somebody who's really done it and who's doing it. And I appreciate it. I respect it. I think it's great for our profession. I'm excited for our like little generation of content creators in the dentistry field, and I hope you keep it up. And you
thank you so much, man. It's really nice. I appreciate it. It's just it's something that really means a lot to me, and if I can do something to make the journey a little bit easier, then I'm gonna keep on doing that. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, bro. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, Steven, just to finish off, do you have anything you'd like to say to the viewers to finish off with? Any advice to pre-dental students or people that are in dental school? Anything you'd like to leave them off with to close today?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a lot of advice out there from people like us, and there's a lot of good advice. I always like to kind of go a different route when I give advice to pre-dental students because there are a lot of people who have covered the school side and just everything, like all the requirements you need to get in and like what your numbers should be and all that. My advice is different. My advice is more of a lifestyle thing. I encourage young students to do a couple things. I encourage you to always prioritize your health. stay healthy. Make sure that you're exercising, you're eating well, you're getting good sleep, because these things are gonna have massive impacts on your life and your career and your future. And so if that's something that you can do, please focus on that. And then also too, I encourage you to enjoy your college experience. I have a lot of young students who are so excited about dental school and they're so excited about their future that they kind of forget to appreciate college and undergrad. And undergrad it can be a wonderful time of your life where you're pretty much kind of free to experience life and to learn what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and to just experience things. And I think when we get really wrapped up in our future and in dentistry and all that, we tend to kind of miss that. So enjoy it. Obviously, that means keep your grades up and study and do everything you need to do, and always challenge yourself to be better. But enjoy that time of freedom and that time to be around people your age and to just experience college and that whole experience, because it's a great one, and I have a lot of fond memories of that. So do that, and then also watch Teham Saud and his videos. One Mission DMD, great guy, great content. Watch Stephen Ray on YouTube; he's pretty cool from what I hear. If you're interested in my stuff, it's Stephen Ray on YouTube, Stephen P. Ray. And content creation is something I love. It's something I'm trying to do. I try to put out a video a week, so there will be new stuff for you there. And then I do have an Instagram, which I kind of have feelings about. I try to do the Instagram stuff. I feel like I'm not as good at it, but I am trying to get into photography more. So we'll see if that's a thing that happens.
You heard it, everyone. Follow Steven and his channel. Follow me here at my channel. We're both trying to, just explain to you what it is being a dental student and how you can kind of go about it. And yeah, appreciate having you on, Steven. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teham. As always, man, I appreciate it.
Take care.